Our next guest has spent the past 30 years inventing the future. You're about to meet a true 21st century Renaissance man, artist Paul Laffoley, who tells us how to build a working time machine and a house made entirely of plants. Imagine the Buddha reincarnated as a mild-mannered, science fiction-obsessed architect, and you'll have an easier time understanding the enigma that is artist Paul Laffoley. Laffoley's futuristic blueprints take the viewer on a journey to the outer limits of metaphysical speculation, bridging consciousness and matter. Stare at one of them long enough, and an entirely new cosmos is revealed. As a child, Laffoley dreamt of a strange museum filled with alien life forms and biological machines. These surreal sculptures contemplated Paul as much as he contemplated them, maybe more so. Laffoley awoke from his dream with a mission, creating what some critics have called an authentic new art form.
I take cosmic themes and I turn them into finely detailed earthwork. And this is the reason why I like diagrams so much, because a diagram is a neutral system which can allow you to diagram anything. As an architect, I always appreciated that, because it's like drawing the floor plan of the building on the ground and then starting to build it. Mandalas are a type of diagram. So I think that the diagram-esqueness of them is the core. In that sense, this is another way of defining the word symbol. It's something that connects thinking and feeling. There's an epistemic ladder in symbolism, going from a sign, an index, an icon, an archetype, to a symbol. When you begin on the ladder, the knower is active and the knowledge is passive. That begins it. And so as you proceed from a sign to an index to an icon, when you get to like an archetype, you're moving to a point where you're recognizing that this is happening all around the world.
Paul, H.G. Wells' time machine is one of the few inventions from his science fiction work that hasn't been built yet. And you have plans to change that, don't you?
That's right. Most people consider that the sine qua non of science fiction, meaning that they feel that this will never leave the realm of science fiction. What most people do when they write science fiction now is that they're actually doing ad hoc research and development for some company that will exist the minute it's read. And that say like NASA used Star Trek, you know, they just took it right offline. And you know, like the communicator that Captain Kirk had is now the cell phone, you know, and all those various things. Given the idea of a time machine, I said it's overdue. So I came up with this idea right here, which I call a level gyre. And this is the main device. Every time you spin something on its own axis, you are altering the space-time around that, just slightly. But when you multiply it, you then have a time dilation, because it's a space-time dilation, which is highly exaggerated. Eternity has energy, but it doesn't involve motion, whereas time has energy that involves motion. So here is a device that allows a connection between time and eternity. What I have right here is the human soul embedded into a temporal dimensional system with the chakras. And as a result, you have a natural ability to anticipate the future or remember the past. The theory that I have is that if you can control and amplify pre- and retrocognition, pre-perception of the future and retro-perception of the past, into an exaggerated form, that you will then fulfill the definition of time travel as Wells presents it in his novel.
Paul's vegetable house combines the principles of sacred geometry with living architecture. He's like Buckminster Fuller, with chlorophyll. Paul, tell me about the vegetable house.
It's called Das Urpflanzerhaus, in homage to the poet Goethe. The idea of a primordial plant, a plant from which all other plants come, was his idea, but biologically he never found it. So it remained an idea. So I thought perhaps you could create the idea from the other way around, that if you actually grafted together all forms of vegetation across the surface of the earth, you would then have a single plant. And all of the different species would come to that. And people said, well, how the hell are you going to do that? I mean, it's possible to graft the same species to itself, but how would you cross-graft? In other words, go from another species.
How would you do it?
It's done by the ginkgo biloba. That was a tree, a flowering plant that was around during a little bit prior to the Jurassic period. So the dinosaurs ate that. And that what it does, it can literally connect conifer to deciduous trees, fruits to vegetables, vines to grasses. This is basically the plan of it. You see, these represent individual pine trees, and you graft the side branches together. So what you then have is a single plant with a multiple root system. Let's take a look at an elevation, side view. The pine trees are all planted in a mature state, because at this point I'm trying to create a new piece of vegetation which could potentially go to seed and have seeds, in the same way that like humans created the navel orange and the nectarine, and then finally once that happened, the thing went to a seed so that you can create more in that way. With genetic engineering, you can increase the velocity of maturation, because you don't want to wait 50 years for one house. If we're talking about helping to solve the housing shortage, you can give a person a bag of seeds and have an entire house grow in 2 months. I think you're on the track to actually solving the low-cost housing problem.